And I want to wish everyone a very meaningful Yom Hazikaron. I know in Israel already you have transitioned into Yom HaAtzmaut, which again, we're going to get into a little bit. But as we did last year, we used technology as an opportunity to interview some of our lone soldiers, individuals who we are incredibly proud of, who are our community's heroes. And first of all, I want to begin from the bottom of all of our hearts. Thank you for your service. Thank you for protecting our homeland. Thank you for being such incredible role models for the next generation of children from Montoya Circle. And because we are live and on Facebook Live and YouTube Live, really all over the world. So what I want to do this afternoon, I should say, or this evening for you, is just like any time in the Army, where whenever you begin a workout, you have a warm up. So I want to begin with our warm up. And if you, each of the panelists, could tell those who are listening who you are, what you're up to, and a brief description of what it is that you do in the Army. And we are going to start with you, Dove. Just have to make sure you're unmuted.
Hello, everyone. How are you? So my name is Dove Colman. I'm from Boca Raton, originally from London. I'm currently in the paratroopers unit, Tanchanim, in Gdud 202. And I'm about a year and a bit in the Army. And I'm currently serving in snipers in Tanchanim. I'm in the training for it.
Okay, cool. Avi, how about you?
I'm Avi Skoczylas. I'm currently serving in a communications unit. I'm a driver over here. And I've been in the Army for about a year and almost 9 months now.
Okay, what kind of things do you do as a driver in the Army?
I move around a lot of radio communications stuff. For like when we have our soldiers out in the field, I go meet up with them. I bring them whatever technology they need to make sure that we have communication throughout all the fields.
Okay, wonderful. Ilana.
Hi, I'm Ilana Makover. I am a year and 4 months in the Army now. I work in the technology unit that deals with underground warfare.
Okay, maybe you were in the news a little bit this week. We'll get into that a little. So here's my follow-up question to each one of you, and we're going to switch around the order. You all grew up in Boca Raton. Baruch Hashem is a very beautiful place. We have a lot of luxuries here, a lot of comforts here. And you all made a very conscious and heroic decision to leave the comforts of Boca Raton to join the Army. And what I want to ask you is, what inspired you to make that decision? And were your parents supportive of that decision? So why don't we go, Avi, why don't we start with you on this one? No, we can't hear you. You're muted. I'm going to change that.
All right.
Oh, hold on. Keep going. There you go. Just have to unmute yourself and then you're ready to go. Yeah.
So I kind of always grew up wanting to go to the Army. Didn't exactly know what I was going to do. I always had in the back of my head, I always wanted to come here and serve. At first, my parents were not for me going to the Army. I remember in high school, telling my parents I'm planning to go to the Army. My mom's like, no way, you're not going to the Army. And they were trying to convince me to go to yeshiva. And in the end, I ended up going to a mechina before the Army to prepare for the Army. That's part of the deal, that if I made it through the mechina, I got to go to the Army. And I made it.
Now, is there a moment in high school where a light bulb went off and you said, this is where I want to be and that's where I want to do? Or was it just a progression of growing up in a very religious Zionist community?
I feel it was just progression. I mean, I always grew up even before I came to Boca, I grew up in a very Zionist community and I was raised very Zionistically. And I always felt that I wanted to do it. So I feel like it's been something that's been growing. It's not just all of a sudden.
Okay, amazing. Ilana, how about you? What inspired you to leave the comforts of Boca Raton to go to Israel, to serve in the Army? And were your parents supportive of that? Oh, hold on. We cannot hear you. I'm going to ask you guys to unmute again. There you go.
There are a couple reasons for me making Aliyah. I'll just name a couple. I went to a very Zionistic camp growing up, Camp Stone, for 8 summers. And like literally everything in Camp Stone is imbued with Zionism, making Aliyah, moving to Israel, like small things that I now see in the army that they did at camp, that it's very parallel to the army. They were building us up for that stage. And also something that I realized after living in America and going to university in America and visiting Israel a handful of many times is that in America, you have to find your community to feel Judaism and to feel all the holidays. But here in Israel, like you feel it. You don't have to be part of a community to feel it. Like, right, Yom Hazikaron, you go outside, you see all the flags and like you feel it in the air. In America, you have to go to a community to feel that.
And in terms of, I'm actually asking you a follow-up question and push you a little bit, and then Dov will come to you. It's actually interesting that you said that because that's one of the things that I hear that's almost the opposite from people that make Aliyah. People who make Aliyah often will tell me that in America, you feel a much greater sense of community. Israel, it's a lot more difficult to feel that sense of community. And a lot of people who, for example, make Aliyah from Boca to Israel, they say one of the things that they lament or that they lack is that strong, cohesive sense of community. Do you feel that you're able to find that in Israel? And if not, is it that sense, that overall sense of Zionism that binds people together? I'm curious your perspective on that.
So then I'll slightly modify my use of words. In America, you have to find a community. In Israel, it's more of a nationhood, like everyone is your community and like you all feel like you are one, you all help out one another. That is how I feel. Any other?
I got another follow-up, but I'm going to go to Dov now. And Dov, what inspired you to join the Army? Was it a progression? Was it one light bulb moment that went off that said, this is where I have to be, that's my homeland? And were your parents and are your parents supportive of that?
So can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes, perfect. So me personally, I grew up in a very Zionistic home. When we lived in London, I went to Israel all the time. We went maybe once or twice a year. And when I moved to America, I didn't really go to Israel too much. And I really felt like a piece of me was missing. And I was involved in NCSY and I went on 2 NCSY trips. I went on TJJ and TJJ AP. And traveling around the country, it really showed me where I wanted to be, showed me the people, the culture, the lifestyle. I went to Poland the following year, and that was a big hit in the face that I realized that I didn't just want to be supportive of Israel, tell people that I love the country. I wanted to physically and actively do something for the country. So initially I went to yeshiva, and in that year I was in Eshet Torah, so I was in the old city, and I saw soldiers every day. I saw soldiers walking around every day with guns, with this, with that. And in that gap year, I realized how much I wanted to draw up to the army. My parents were supportive. They had only one thing that I had to do. They told me that I had to get my American citizenship first. So as soon as I had an American passport in my hand, I applied for Israeli citizenship and I moved to Israel.
Amazing. Well, again, I just want to reiterate, you are all heroes for the decisions that you made. And it's very difficult, as I said, to leave the comforts and luxuries of life in America and Boca Raton and to make the decisions that you did. So just so you all know, and again, I know you feel it, but we're all enormously proud of you. And you're incredible role models for me, for our community, and for our children. Ilana, I want to pick up on something that you said, which is that the notion of nationhood, that in Israel, you all feel part of a movement, you all feel part of a nation, you all feel part of a people. Obviously, while that exists beautifully in theory, we all know that there's bifurcation, there are differences within Israel as well, the same way there is in America. I'm curious your perspective on what it's like to be a religious soldier on an army base in the IDF. What does Shabbos look like? What is it like to interact with Jews from different backgrounds? Do you feel that your religious growth is supported in the IDF? If you can give us a little bit of insight into specifically what it's like to be a religious soldier on an army base.
I would want to state in the beginning that everyone's army experience is different. So like my army is definitely different than everyone else's here. But I can tell you for myself, my unit, like they're very fine with me taking time out and like going to pray in the morning and whatnot. In terms of Shabbat, I don't close. I always leave base. So I don't know the experience of Shabbat on base. So in terms of on base, we do have the Rabbanut. We have like different shiurim that happen, different classes. There were different, like for the fast days, they had programming. Like there is stuff happening on base if you choose to go to it. And the Army, like if you want to fast, for example, I know my commanders, they're fine with me. It's fasting and like not going to work, like they're fine with that. In terms of, so I can't like, but I feel like the bulk of the question is like staying on base for Shabbat, and I have yet to experience that, so I can't answer that question.
That's
but
okay. You answered in
have been
terms
really
of
great.
okay, but you would answer yes, that you feel your religious growth is supported, that the Army is doing its job to make sure that you feel comfortable, and again that you're able to be in an environment of religious growth.
Yeah.
Okay, Avi, how about you?
So as you guys see, I'm still in uniform. It's because I'm closing the Shabbat. I'm gonna be here. I feel when you close Shabbat, you actually have to want it a little bit more. You have to be a little bit stronger about it, because you do have non-religious friends around you. You have a lot of non-religious people around you that to them, it's not such a big deal to watch TV on Shabbat or play with their phones or, do all the stuff that as a religious Jew, you can't really do. So it is a little bit harder when you're closing Shabbat and everyone around you is doing what they want. But I do feel for pretty much all the holidays, all the fasts, everything, my commander is always willing to work with me. He's always like, first is davening, make sure you take care of your davening, make sure you take care of everything that you need to do first. And then whatever mission I have for you, I will send you on later. Like, you're religious is before everything. And I feel like there is the opportunity to grow in the Army. There are a lot of other yeshiva boys on my base also. They do Hez there. And that you sit with them, you're able to relax and actually feel like you're a part of a religious community on base.
Now, can you just define for people what closing Shabbos mean? I assume that means being on the base. And
it means being on base, doing guard duty. For me as a driver, I don't do guard duty. I do patrols around the base. So I actually have to drive on Shabbat, which is one of the most weird things to ever do. And for other people, it's like doing guard duty, doing some kitchen work. And if you're a religious person who's closing Shabbat and you have to do kitchen, you don't clean dishes on Shabbat. You clean it after Shabbat, or you make sure it's all clean before Shabbat. There is no cleaning. There's no doing anything extra that you don't need to be doing.
Now, how did Mechina prepare you religiously for the Army? You had mentioned that you went to Mechina before the Army. In what ways did that prepare you for the experience, both of interacting with Jews who are going to look and behave and act a lot differently than you, and how did it fortify you to be able to be in the Army and also protect your spiritual growth along the way?
So it gave me a cornerstone, a place I could always turn back to and return to there. And if I'm struggling, I could always go send a text to my rabbi. I'd be like, hey, I have a question about this or whatever it is. And I always know that I have that place I could always go to. And while I was there, I was in classes. I was learning. I was still learning. I was learning how to be able to support my own religiousness in the Army, because there will be times that it will be hard.
Okay. Dove, what about you? What are your experiences in the Army?
So my service is a little bit different. For the past year, I've been in training. So I've actually spent the entire holidays of the past year on base. I closed it up because of Corona, meaning I was on base for Shabbat. I was closing months at a time. When I was in training, every morning, like we would have set times in the day to pray. So in the morning, we'd have Shachar, we'd have Mincha Mariv. The Chagim, I have to tell you that it was more fun to be on base for the Chagim than it was to be off base for the Chagim, because on base I had a shul to go to, which was in our platoon, which was outside because Corona, and you're with all your brothers and it's a lot of fun. There weren't too many religious people in my platoon, but when we were in Shetach, which means a field, when we had Shavot Shetach, which means we're in the field for a week, all of our gear on our back. One of the things I would take with me was my tefillin. And a lot of the non-religious kids didn't take their tefillin with them. And it ended up being called a pekat tefillin. So everyone used my tefillin together. And it's really nice to sit down with your friends after, like, during a long week. You have like half an hour, you can sit down and you can pray with one another. And I think that's one of the best, some of the best times of my service, when I've sat down. We put on film together in the morning after a hard training exercise, and it was sometimes 20 minutes, 10 minutes, just to sit down and talk to God and be with your friends and not think about the miles or kilometers that we have to do in the upcoming hours.
That's amazing. Dov, I never knew you were a closet Chabadnik, but putting on tefillin people in the army. It's interesting. Some of you might remember that every year, other than last year, we always hosted a unit of the Israeli army as part of this program, Peace of Mind, which we're going to come back to in a little bit. And the unit was always a combination of religious and non-religious soldiers. And one of the things that was always inspiring to me was the camaraderie that they had, was the mutual respect that they had for one another. And they were describing that when you're in the trenches with someone, you become like their brother. And if, you have to respect them, however they choose to practice their Judaism. And it's really beautiful to see. And I guess as an American, when you don't see that very often, it's somewhat refreshing to be able to see it in that way. I want to ask you guys about Yom HaZikaron and Yom HaAtzmaut. I always feel, and again, I spent 2 years in Israel studying and then came back to America, and I always felt that Yom HaZikaron and Yom HaAtzmaut were the 2 days on the calendar where I missed being in Israel the most. I miss being in Israel every day, but it's Yom HaZikaron, it's Yom HaAtzmaut where I missed being in Israel the most, because I really feel that there's the biggest gap between how you experience it in America and how you experience in Israel. So my question to you guys is, what are those days like in Israel? And how do they differ from what you remember about those days in America? Give us a little bit of an insight as to what Yom HaZikaron is, what it means to you, what Yom HaAtzmaut is happening outside. I don't know if we could hear any of the noise. I'm sure there's a lot of partying going on around you. So give us a little bit, what's Yom HaAtzmaut? What's Yom HaZikaron like? How does it differ from America? Avi, we'll start with you.
Well, I don't know if you guys can hear it, but there is fireworks going on right outside my base. So Yom HaAtzmaut, it's a holiday. It's a lot of fun. Everyone's celebrating. It's like 4th of July on steroids, pretty much. Everyone's super happy. Everyone's out celebrating. Doesn't matter what differences you are, religious, not religious. Doesn't matter who you are. Everyone's out celebrating. Everyone's like a brother all of a sudden. And for Yom HaZikaron, it's very serious. Like yesterday, I happened to be driving before the sirens went off, and I was with a few other people in the car, and they're like, Avi, we have to make sure we stop. I was like, for sure, obviously we're gonna stop. And like, I don't want to just stop on the side of the road. We want to be able to make sure we actually can stop, stand up, and respect all the soldiers. And so we decided to do that. We ended up going to one of my friend's houses that was in the car with me, and I was in an area where everyone just stopped. Everything all of a sudden is just completely dead, no movement, no nothing. And it's like for a whole minute, everyone's just silent in respect for all the ones who have served, all the ones who's given everything that they can. And it's a heavy feeling. It feels like an important day, and you really feel it.
Do any of your commanders share stories? Obviously you guys are still younger in the army. Do any of your commanders share stories of people, personalities, people that they lost along the way?
I have a Rasarit. That's basically somebody who's in charge of a lot of the soldiers on the base. She had told me that one of her, it was like her first time being a commander or whatever, and one of her soldiers that were underneath her ended up committing suicide. And she told me like how serious that day was for her. And I noticed it was even more serious for her, because yesterday I saw she was concentrated on that one thing, that one soldier that she had lost. Like, you feel there's a connection to it. Everyone has a connection. Just everyone knows somebody that has lost someone, and you feel the connection when they're talking about it, and especially on Yom HaZikaron.
Okay, I'm going to come back to something you just said, but Ilana, I want to give you a chance to answer that. Yom HaZikaron, Yom HaAtzmaut in Israel compared to America, what's it like?
So I can tell you about today's experience. I was in Har Herzl. I was one of the soldiers. They have this program where for every fallen soldier, they have a current soldier stand at the grave and give respect. So I was part of this program today at Har Herzl, where I represented a fallen soldier from my unit. And it was just truly incredible, like a truly incredible experience to be there. I was at the grave and I saw this, his name is Lior Amsalam. I saw Lior Amsalam's mom, his dad, his second cousin, his aunt, his uncle, and like one by one give their respect. Like that was just one kever. And then I saw in my row so many other families also come and give their respect to their loved ones, whether it's a year ago that this person passed, 5 years ago, 30 years ago. And it's like truly incredible to see how everyone comes together. And again, like we all mourn for each other, because at the end of the day, like we're all family, and like we all mourn together. It's collective mourning because it's collective memory. And it was just a really incredible experience to be there. And
did you learn anything about Lior from his family that you could share with us?
I did not.
You did not.
I was a little shy to talk to the family. I didn't know like whether they wanted to talk or not. So I didn't.
I understand. Dove, what about you? Yom HaZikaron, Yom HaAtzmaut in Israel.
As for Yom HaZikaron, I was on base. So yesterday I was on base. Yesterday I left base very late. And I was actually on the bus for the siren. The police stopped the bus, and everyone on the bus stood up. All the soldiers put on their berets, and we stood there for the siren. And I think that was my first time. My first time when I was in uniform and I heard the siren, and I don't know. I was kind of put. I felt like I was put back into my place because I'm in a course right now, which we're training to do quite intense missions. And it was quite scary. It was, I don't know. I definitely felt that. I remembered where I was. I remember why I drafted. When I was 16, 17, both those years I was in Israel for Yom HaZikaron and Yom HaAtzmaut, and I was thinking, I was at Har Herzl. I was at Michael Levine's grave. Michael Levine's a lone soldier from paratroopers who passed away in one of the Lebanon wars. And in the minutes of silence, I really thought of him, and I thought of my inspiration to draft because of him. Yom HaAtzmaut in America. Yom HaAtzmaut in America is quite interesting. You go to your Jewish friends, you have parties, in school, you have you make food with your Hebrew teacher, you have fun. And here, right now, I'm at a party right now, and I'm at a barbecue at one of my host family. And everyone's extremely happy. We went from probably one of the saddest days in the countries, and everyone's celebrating, eating, and talking, and it's so much fun. So much fun, the country right now.
I saw a tweet today. I wish I remembered from who, and I'm going to not do justice by quoting it, but the tweet said something to the extent of Yom HaAtzmaut, the day where we get blue and white cookies in school, and then our parents tell us that they don't want us to make Aliyah because they're nervous. Right. So I thought there was a lot of wisdom in that tweet. I don't know if anyone wants to comment on that. But it is something, again, as I said at the beginning, that I struggle with, of how to make Yom HaAtzmaut more meaningful in America. Whereas you said, and a number of you have referenced it, when you're in Israel, it's such an all-encompassing experience. The entire country is going through something together. And it's very hard to recreate that in America, even with a community and even with schools. It's you can't tap into the emotional component of that transition from Yom HaZikaron to Yom HaAtzmaut and how it plays on your emotions. I referenced earlier that every year BRS is privileged to host a unit of the Israeli Army. It's part of this program called Peace of Mind. One of the things that every year they tell me is that they're blown away that Jews in America, that people in America view them as heroes. They go to Israel, they're regular Jews. Everyone does the same service. It's their obligation. It's their duty. They come to America and everyone views them as heroes. And it's such a jarring experience for them to view themselves as heroes. So my question to you guys is, Do you think the average Israeli understands just how much American Jews care about them, love them, support them? And do you think that they understand and appreciate that in our eyes, they are heroes? And I know I'm asking a lot of questions. If they did feel that, how do you think that would transform their service, right? Do you think it would transform the service of the average Israeli if they recognized that Jews around the world are looking up to them as role models, as heroes, are davening for them, are giving tzedakah to them? Does the average Israeli understand that? Ilana, we'll start with you.
So I don't think the average Israeli, I don't think that will influence the average Israeli, knowing that people from abroad, Americans, think of them as heroes, because for them, the army is something that they have to do, you know, like they're 18 years old, they have to join. And like a lot of them, I can tell you people in my unit, like but when they first drafted, they really didn't want to go to the army, you know, and like there are people who are counting down the days. And I personally just don't think them knowing that, like, I think they do know that people in America are praying for them and thinking of them as heroes, but I think for them, it's more of like, it's something that you have to do. So like, it doesn't matter what other people say to me, like that they consider me a hero, because it's just like a way of life in Israel. It's like a known that, okay, like once you finish high school, you're drafting. So I don't think personally it would change anything.
Avi, what about you?
I agree with Ilana. I mean, I speak with a lot of my friends here, and I tell them, like, we grow up looking up to become soldiers. We grow up Zionistic and wanting to come here to do what they're doing, and they're just forced to do it. It's like she said, it's a way of life. You're on a track to do it no matter what. I don't think they feel it. I don't think they see it, and I don't really think telling them, because I have told them, I don't think telling them really makes a difference. To them, it's what they have to do. They have to go through it. It's an obligation. Some of them will go through it happily and will enjoy it, and some of them will literally count down the days until they're released.
Wow. Dove.
In my unit, we actually, there's a lot of the time we'll have maybe once every other month or so, we'll have like a ceremony, and we get lots of gifts and all different types of things from donations, from charities, from all over. And, we feel the love then, we really do. One thing that I can say is that everywhere I've been, every board that I've been on, there's always like a portable synagogue. It's like a container, and on it says FIDF, and it's or donated from this place in America, or donated by that place in America. And a lot of the religious people, they ask me about it, like, do you know where this is? Do you know where this is? Because they're interested about it, and they are very thankful about it. But the average soldier, to find out that or to hear that they're getting the support from foreigners, it depends. Where I am, the training that we have, it's hard. People they want to leave the army when they do it. So it depends. If you ask me, it depends on the soldier who you ask, because there's soldiers who are very positive and they love the army. There's people who are very negative and they don't like the army. So it really depends on which soldier you ask. But I'd like to say that if you ask some of my friends, they would be very happy to hear about the support from America.
So interesting that all three of you had a similar perspective. And I wonder if it's an age factor. The soldiers that we've hosted have been older. They've been at least 10 years out of the army. Each of them saw significant combat, and each of them lost significant amounts of their unit in various wars. And a lot of them communicated to us that they were always trying to put that in a context, right? It seemed so meaningless to them. Why'd their soldiers have to die? What was the purpose of all of it? And then they come to America and they see that there's a broader Jewish community, there's a broader Jewish world out there that really they're protecting, and they're not fully understanding the broader picture of what it means to be part of the Jewish people internationally. And a lot of them expressed to us that through the therapy they go through, one of the most important parts of the therapy is understanding that, is understanding the international Jewish community. It's understanding how much their service means to us. And it gave them a lot of comfort into some of the experiences that, as you guys referenced, at the time seemed like burdens and things like you had to do. They all shared that it gave new meaning to it. I want to ask a heavy question, and then we're going to go into a little bit of a rapid fire section. And Avi, I'm going to pick on you because you referenced it. You referenced that one of your commanders on the base had lost a soldier to suicide, and that that was weighing heavily on her. Obviously, for those of us in America, and we've been reading the articles about the role that PTSD has been playing in the Israeli army. There was a soldier a couple days ago who set himself on fire, which made a lot of news here in America. If you go to Times of Israel today, the lead 2 stories are all about PTSD. And David Horowitz has an article about how Israel is woefully inadequate in terms of supporting soldiers once they come out of the army. And so I'm curious, it's kind of an open-ended question, but I'm curious if you guys feel any of that, see any of that, experience any of that. Is it spoken about on the base? The old depiction of like the Israeli as the macho soldier who's not allowed to feel emotions and just goes about it. I think we're starting to see that emotions aren't so simple. Do you experience any of that on the base? Is it spoken about at all on the base? So Avi, I'll start with you because you referenced it.
I think emotions are pushed aside, at least on my base. Like me personally, I had a few issues not too long ago, and I was complaining to my commander and complaining. He's like, "You're in the army, live with it. Like, this is what you chose to do. You got to do it." So I feel like there are some times where it's pushed aside, and there are times where it feels like they don't care. But in the long run, they come back around. They'll ask you and make sure that you're okay. They do check up on you. They do, like my commander personally, not higher ranking commanders, but my personal commander, he'll check in on me every so often, be like, "Avi, you okay?" Making sure that I have everything I need, that I'm not going through a hard time. And I do see it with some other commanders, but I do think it's a little bit more hush hush. Like they try not to acknowledge it. But when a soldier is going through a tough time and they're showing signs of suicidal or showing signs that they're harming themselves or something like that, they're going to try to send them right away to a psychologist. They're going to try to protect that soldier so this way the soldier won't hurt themselves. And if it's at an extent where they feel that the soldier can't be in the army, they will try to release them as soon as possible.
But it's not spoken about proactively, is what you're saying.
I don't feel it's spoken about proactively.
Okay, Dov, what about you? As a sniper, do they talk about these types of issues?
Honestly, no, we don't talk about these issues.
Is that
when
a
I
good
was
thing?
in training, is it a good thing? Probably not, because at the end of my service, at the end of the service that I do, I feel like people have PTSD. But when I was in training, we had a session about it. We learned about it, and there were some people who weren't fit to be in combat. It was hard for them mentally. They were suicidal. My best friend in the army was suicidal, and he spoke to the psychiatrist, and they took him out of the army. And I think personally, where I am, they deal with it very well. People who don't want to be in the army, people who are finding it too hard, they'll find them a good place to go to. They'll set them up into a different place in the same unit though.
Ilana, how about you?
So I agree with Avi. I don't think the army goes out of its way to talk about this in like a forum, in event halls, like something like that, like as a base or just like as a unit. I personally have not gone through that my over a year in the army. And like from now and then my commanders do check up on me, but like nothing much.
Okay. Again, that, that verifies what the soldiers who come for Peace of Mind tell us. Peace of Mind is a program which deals with units that went through enormous trauma in combat. And the first thing they all tell me when they get here the first day is, we're not really sure why we're here. It's a cave, right? It's a vacation. We get to come, America, party, whatever, but they really don't know why they're there. And by the end of the week, the intensive week that they're here, they all say to themselves, they didn't realize how badly they needed it until they were given a language, a vocabulary, and a forum, a safe space to be able to discuss it. And again, that's why I think programs like Peace of Mind, and I know there are others out there, are so important. I want to lighten the mood a little bit. Each of you told us what you do in the Army. I want to dig a little bit deeper. If you could, without sharing any government secrets, what exactly do you do? So Dov, I'll start with you. You're a sniper. Walk us through a day in the life of a sniper in the IDF. What is your training like? What's the hardest part of being a sniper? What made you choose a sniper? Did being a sniper choose you? Walk us through a little bit about what it's like to be a sniper.
So I started off in the regular paratroopers unit. The 8 months that was we have a 12-month training. I'm about 9 months in. First 8 months was quite hard. We have basic training, then we have advanced training. The last few weeks of advanced training were incredibly hard. It was just weeks in the field. I must have eaten so many cans of tuna, I don't remember. And once I got my red beret, I moved to a sniper's course. How did I get to the sniper's course? My position was the kala, which is the sharpshooter. And I actually won an award for being the best shooter in my draft. Then I did a gibush, which is like a test. So I did a physical test, and I actually did a math test and a drawing test to get into the sniper's unit. Once I got in there, I'm about halfway through the training for the snipers. So for me right now, I'm honestly really good where I am. I wake up in the morning at like 5. I pray, I eat, we work out, and then from about 9 a.m. until 10 p.m. we're shooting. We're shooting when we're in the range all the time shooting. The fun part about being a sniper is the gun's incredible. It's a very powerful gun. It's a lot of fun. I feel like I'm in a video game. The hardest part about being a sniper is because 2021, we have a lot of technology. And it's a lot of fun. But I think it was in the war in 2014, a lot of the gear wasn't working. So they went back to training all the snipers how to do it the old school way, which was to figure out the distance of the target with the scope and do all the maths in your head. And yesterday I had a test where we had to look at a target for 6 seconds, find the target within a minute, and then shoot the target and hit the target within the minute. That means my spotter has to find the target, successfully tell me where it is. I have to successfully figure out how far away the target is, how strong the wind is, and if I'm beyond 500, 600 meters to change to how do I explain this? To change it, the bullet's going to go a little more right. And I have to say the maths is the hardest part for me there. Like I'm good at maths, but doing the maths while you have to keep your eye on the target and figuring everything out, it's probably the hardest part. But at the end of the day, like once you get a good shot and you hit the target and you hear the ding, it's a lot of fun.
What's the secret to a perfect shot? Is it breathing? Is it steady hands?
So there's 4 things they focus on. They teach us. It's the breathing. I have to either shoot with no air in my lungs or with holding my breath. I have to very, very lightly pull the trigger. If I pull it too hard, the bullet will go way too far right. So I have to pull the trigger very lightly. I have to make sure I'm keeping like all the points of my body flat on the ground and I'm not moving. And I have to make sure that I'm comfortable and I'm ready and I feel good. And then when I feel ready to shoot, I tell my spotter that I'm ready. He gives me the go and then I shoot.
Now you mentioned the ding of the target. I'm going to come to the rest of you guys in a second, but the ding of the target, obviously, lo aleinu, but there could come a time when Israel is going to need sharpshooters to protect its borders against enemies, against infiltrators. Do they prepare you psychologically for what that means? I mean, it's an awesome responsibility, the weapon that you have in your hands and the job that you're going to be tasked to do. And it's not going to be the same as hitting a ding on a target. Is that something you talk about? Is that something you mentally prepare yourself for? Is that just one of those things that you suck it up and you realize that this is part of what it means to be in the Army?
So this week I'm in a course with about 20 people, and at the end of the day, everyone sits down in a big circle and we talk about how the day was, how we improved, how we didn't improve. And my officer from the course, he was in I can't say which unit was he in, but he was in a very good unit. And he was telling us stories of when he was in the field and how it affected him after, and how that everything that we do in this course is training us ultimately to shoot a human being. And about once a week we have a conversation with him about that. And me personally, I feel like it's preparing me when I have one-on-one conversations with him. It really helps. And the people who have a lot more experience in this job that I have, they really, really help. And it's probably the most important thing for me to understand how powerful the weapon is that I have in my hand, and ultimately what I'm going to be doing with it.
Okay, Avi, walk us through a little bit more in detail what the driver's like, what your training was like. What are some things people might not know about the job that you do? What's the hardest part of being in the Army? What's it like being a driver?
Um, Training for me was a long time ago. It was fun. I don't remember a lot of it. So I'm just going to skip the training part. Day like a driver. It's different almost every single day. Normally, my day will start the night before. I'll get a text on what I'm doing. So I'll send a text to my commander. Hey, what's my mission? What's my mission for tomorrow? What do I have to do for the next day or for the next week or whatever it is? And he'll be like, and he'll tell me, either I'll tell you what you're doing tomorrow, go to sleep, relax, or he'll tell me you're going to be waking up at a certain time. I think the earliest I wake up is like 5:30 to go on any sort of drive, and I can be driving from 5:30 in the morning all the way until 10 o'clock at night. That's up until I have my permission to be driving out at night, unless I get a special permission. So just being on the road a lot is one of the harder jobs. Because it takes a lot of energy. It's not just being on the road; it's also lifting, unloading the trucks, loading the trucks, and it's not light material. This stuff is very heavy, and it's working in the sun a lot. I'm all the time in the sun, so it's very draining. And some other things that I do is like if I'm not waking up to go on a drive, I'll wake up. We have a Mizdal Boker every morning, which means we all wake up, we line up, we raise the flag, and we are checked that we are in uniform properly. We have all of our tags and everything properly on us. And then we'll go out, continue our day. We'll go eat breakfast, daven. Then we'll go out to our offices. And on a day that I don't go on a drive, I'll normally be cleaning up the cars or driving around the base, making sure everyone has what they need. And just filling out some paperwork for some of the trucks.
Now you're a corporal, a sergeant. I forgot. Your father sent me a big certificate. Staff sergeant. What does that mean? Did you go to extra training for that?
I did not go through any extra training for that. My commander basically. So in the Army, it works with two types of ranks. You get your rank that just comes with time, and you get a rank that is given to you out of almost like an honor type of thing. So I'm a Samal as my rank, which is a sergeant, and then I'm a staff sergeant, which is also called Samal, meaning I have soldiers under me that I tell them, okay, this is what my commander wants us to do. This is what we have to do today. This is what has to get done. And I work personally I have two soldiers underneath me currently. I work personally with them, telling them what has to be done from hour to hour. Like I'm always in touch with my two soldiers that are under me.
Now, how did you choose driving? How did that? You fell into that? They were chosen for that. You have a passion for that. How did you choose that?
My story is kind of interesting. When I found out I was drafting, they originally told me I was going to be drafting to semi trucks, and I'd be driving like the tanks on the semi trucks. And then like a week before my draft date, they called me up. They're like, "Oh, we made a mistake. You're not drafting to that. Call up the Lishkat Yus, find out your new draft date and where you're drafted to, what you're doing." So I decided to do that, and they told me you're doing a regular draft where you don't have a job yet. You're going to go through training, and then we'll give you a job. I went through most of my training, and then in the middle of the training, they asked us, you have three options. You could either be a mechanic, you could be a driver, or you can be probably the third one, but it was something with computers. And they told us take those three, put them in a list from what you want the most to what you want the least. So I knew I didn't want to sit behind a computer all day. I don't have the skill set to just be able to sit behind a computer all day. So I was like, it's either going to be a mechanic or it's going to be a driver. I was like, if I'm a mechanic, I'm not also going to be a driver. If I'm a driver, I could work with mechanics. So I put driver as first one, and that's what I got.
Awesome. Ilana, computers.
So I took Avi's third pick, apparently, of the sitting behind a computer most days. I can, an average day is I get to the office, do some programming. We build a lot of technology. We build a lot of code. We use our code. Then we use what we write or what we wrote into the field. We do field work as well. And that's as much as I can tell you guys.
Okay, wink once if something happened in Iran this week. Wink twice if I won't push you too much more. I do, however, want to read a midrash for you, which I shared last year to the students as well when I interviewed them, and I think it's a very powerful midrash, and I want to get your thoughts on it. And I apologize that my phone keeps on ringing. The midrash says the following. It's on Perek Tehillim, Perek Chaf, chapter 20 of Tehillim. And it says, Masha la'avu ben shayu mahalchim b'derech, that there was a father and a son that were walking on the way, v'nit yageya haben, and the son gets very tired. So Amar la'av, heichan hiya Medina. He says to his father, where is the Medina? How do I know when the city is? So the father says to him, Bini siman ze yehi biyadcha. I'm going to give you a sign how you know when you're almost at the Medina. Imra'isa beis hakvaros lefanecha. If you see a cemetery that's in front of you, harehi hamedina krovalach. If you see the cemetery, then you know that the country, then you know that the nation, that the land is close by. And so I want to ask you for your reactions to that medrash. I find it to be a very powerful medrash, certainly on Yom Hazikaron. And I'm curious your thoughts on it. And I guess, Avi, we'll start with you.
Honestly, I don't know how to respond to that. Like,
the relationship between the sacrifice that people go through in the army and the creation and survival of the state of Israel, the protective force for Jews around the world. Is that connection spoken about? Is it intuitively felt? Do you think about it actively?
I don't think about it actively. There are certain days of the year that I do think about it. Like Yom HaShoah, I thought about it a lot. It was on my mind a lot, that there was a lot of sacrifice just given just to get here. And also when I go through my own tough times and I'm thinking like, I'm going through a hard time, I need to push through this, I need to get through it. I do think there's been a lot of sacrifice just to get to where I am today, just to get, not only for me, for where me, my unit, where this country is, just to get where we are today. I do feel like there has been a lot of sacrifice given for that. And when it says like you'll find the burial, you'll find a gravesite, right. You notice it. Like I'm on the road all the time, I drive all the time, and I pass grave sites all the time. But when you go past a grave site, there's two grave sites. There's two graveyards. There's a graveyard for your regular like everyone, and then there's the military graveyard. You do see there's a different grouping, and you feel it as a soldier. You're like you realize that your direction is not just it's not just you doing stuff. You're doing stuff, and you are sacrificing. You are giving whatever you can. And yeah.
Okay, Ilana, how about you?
Yeah, so that Tehillim really resonates with me. You know, the state of Israel was built upon the soldiers of the past, the fighters of the past, and we're very grateful for what they started, what they accomplished. And like now we are the current generation, like we are building upon what the legacy and the foundation that they started for us to continue and have this beautiful land that we call our own. Beautiful country.
Dove, you have anything to add?
Yeah, so as I said, I was on base for every single Chag this year. So actually during Yom Kippur, when everyone was fasting, I was in Hebron, and we were guarding on the streets, making sure the Jews had a safe passage to shul and back. And you're standing with your partner, and I was there for about 11, 12 hours, and we're in the sun, we're not eating, we're fasting. And he was telling me that like I'm happy I'm here, because if we weren't here, these people wouldn't be able to go to shul. And as a result of our sacrifice, people were able to go to shul and pray. And I think that moment in the army really stuck out to me when I realized that like I was doing something a lot bigger than myself and the sacrifice that I put in. So yeah.
Okay. Now let's lighten it up again. Tell us one very cool part about being in the Army that Americans might not know about, if you can, Ilana, with just winking. Dove, we'll start with you again. Cool part about being in the Army.
I got to jump out of a plane. That was pretty fun.
Were you
That was
nervous?
a lot of, you know, I took a nap on the plane for like half an hour while we were going up. I woke up and the officer on the plane was like, "All right, yalla, let's go." And I felt the hit on my back. They say "kfot," which means jump. I jumped out the plane, and I was flying through the air. And when everything settled down after like 10 seconds, and like the parachute was open, and like I did all my checks and everything, I looked out and I got to see Israel from I don't know, 300 meters up, on my own in the air. And it was the most peaceful 30 seconds of my life before I had to hit the ground. But it was probably one of the coolest things that I've done in my life, easily.
That's legit. Avi?
I don't think mine's as cool as those, but I get to wake up really early. I get to drive and see the sunrise and the sunset in Israel, and I get to see it from almost every view possible in the country. I've driven all over, and it's just a gorgeous country.
I think that's pretty cool. Don't underestimate it. Ilana, how about you?
I'm still thinking. I haven't found an answer that is that I can share over.
It's unclassified. Okay, well, wait. How long does it take for things to become declassified in Israel? We'll have you back on then.
A while.
What do your parents always know what you're doing? Are there things that you purposely do not tell your parents because you're nervous they are going to worry about you? Any of you can feel free to jump right in.
Well, for me, I'm the fourth out of 4 siblings who have made Aliyah and joined the army. So I think at this point, like my parents are fine with whatever I do tell them / whatever I don't tell them. And it's better that I don't tell them a lot of things. But yeah, again, with my parents as well, I can only say like what I'm telling everyone in this Zoom call. So they only know like the very minimum.
Okay. Avi, Dove, you guys tell your parents what you're doing on a daily basis?
Not on a daily basis. I do tell them every so often what's going on. I don't always tell them everything. Like, I'll tell them now. There's times I've driven right up to the border of Gaza, and I just didn't want to tell them because I didn't want to worry them.
Okay, well, it's easy to tell that once you're safe back in the base. Dove, what about you?
Yeah, I don't tell my parents about most things that I do. Yeah, I really do. I don't want to tell my mom a lot of the things that I do, and she knows that. And I think it's better for that she doesn't know a lot of things that I do. I tell her about the fun things that happened. The course that I'm in right now is a lot of fun. I can tell her about it. I can tell her, if things were hard or not. But the things that actually happen, I'm not going to say that.
Well,
a lot of things I don't tell my
she's
mom.
just proud that you're brushing up on your math skills. That's all she heard from
she's proud that I'm having fun and I'm enjoying my friends, and I'm having a great time and I'm happy. That's the most important part.
That is the most important part. Now I just want to reiterate where we started, and then I'm going to come to our closing question, which is just how enormously proud all of us are. I know me personally, as a representative of our community, I'm enormously proud of the 3 of you, and I'm watching so many of your parents' faces as you're answering and as you're talking with such wisdom and thoughtfulness, and you're an enormous source of pride for all of us. Obviously, this is a public Zoom. People are listening and watching. It's on Facebook. It's going to be on YouTube. We're going to send it out. And one of the things that I was surprised by last year in our conversation was how many high school and middle school students had watched the conversation and had subsequently emailed me with questions and wanting to connect with some of the panelists. So you have an enormous mouthpiece right now, right? You have the microphone. You have an opportunity to communicate a message to American Jewry, to the Jews of Boca Raton, to high school, middle school students, people who are just like you a number of years ago. If you could offer one message to them, what would that message be? I don't want to give an order because I don't know who's ready first. Who should I pick on? Avi, I'll start with you. What's that one message?
What's one message I could tell to everyone?
Someone else is ready. They can jump in and give Avi some more time to think.
I think I got one.
There you
It's
go.
not always the easiest path, but sometimes it's the right path. Sometimes you just gotta jump in and do it.
Okay. Can you give us an example of how you had to practice that in your service?
I've had to practice that in my service. So when I went to course for driving to get my military license, I did not enjoy it. I had a really hard time. It was the beginning of Corona. Nobody knew what was going on. We had no clue how to live life because everything just stopped, as everyone knows. And there was times where like the commanders were telling people to do things and nobody wanted to do anything because they were scared. Like, it's Corona. Like, we can't touch. We can't do that. We can't do, like, we didn't know what we were allowed to do. And I'm one of the older people almost every single time, almost everywhere I go. So a lot of times I would jump in. I'd be the first one. I'd be like, okay, after me, let's go. We're doing this. Let's go. And a lot of times it's really hard and we push through.
Amazing. Dove, what about you? One message.
Okay, one message. For me, for anyone who's thinking of the army, you know, maybe doesn't want to go, maybe doesn't know what they want to do, I can say follow your heart and you go to anywhere you want to be. You want to go to a great unit, you want to go to the best unit in the army, put your 110% in and you can get anywhere you want. When times are tough, you have your brothers around, you have your family, and you'll come out of the army with the best friends of your life. And it's a really, really incredible experience. And I'm blessed to be where I am today.
That's awesome. Ilana?
I would say for all those middle school and high schoolers, if they want to make a major life decision, always have a concrete reason or reasons for doing that, because once you do it, you always need those reasons or that reason in your back pocket, because at times it may be very difficult to like understand like why you're doing it, because things are very messy in the path that you chose. And like you always need that in your back pocket to remind you to keep going, and that will help you.
Awesome. If someone wants to join the army, what's one skill they should work on?
Hebrew.
Hebrew?
Yeah, definitely Hebrew.
Okay.
Yeah, I could definitely agree. Hebrew's important.
Okay. Well, again, I want to thank all three of you so much. I know it's late in Israel. I know we're coming into your Yom Ha'atzmaut party time. So we appreciate you taking the time, being with us. And again, I just want to reiterate what I've been saying all along. The three of you are amazing. You're heroes. You're our role models. You give us all such enormous nachas for not only your parents who I know are watching, but for our entire community. And I just want to give you a bracha, each one of you, that you should be safe, you should be healthy, and Hashem should continue to give you the wisdom and strength to continue to protect our people. So thank you all, and Chag Sameach, happy Yom Ha'atzmaut.
Thank you. Chag Sameach.